Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today, Jonathan. I appreciate it. I imagine you're pretty busy guy.
Yo, thanks for the invite, Aubrey. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Now, I guess for my community, they'd love to know what it is, who you are, what you do for a day to day, and just kind of what does that entail?
Yeah, well, I'm head of security at SendGrep, a code analysis company. My focus is securing a security startup, so it's a lot of fun. Before that, I spent a bunch of time in red team and blue team roles. The first 10 years of my career or so, I spent as a pen tester working for companies like NCC and Spider Labs. But I got pretty tired of dropping the same report week in, week out for the same companies, and spent the later half of my career working inside tech companies trying to secure them from the inside. So working with software engineering teams primarily in the sort of AppSec space. So that's why I ended up at SendGrep. I love the product, but I also love working with engineers and working to secure the development process.
Awesome. That's a great reason. Like when you're driven to do something, it's fantastic to just go after it, right? Like,
yeah.
And I can imagine having done, red team and blue teaming, I can see why you would be interested in something like SendGrep. I can imagine, that's probably given you some perspective over the past 10 years or so to kind of, I guess, how the security landscape has changed. And for me, what, I've been doing a bit of research on recently is artificial intelligence. And obviously there's a huge API component to that. So I was curious to know in your, in the past, say 10 years or so, how AI security or API security, has kind of changed for you.
Yeah, I guess there's probably two big things that have changed in API security over that sort of period. And I think the first and most simple is everything's an API now. So software has eaten the world, to quote the cliche. The vast majority of your day is spent, interacting with APIs, even if you don't realize it. You're reading a newsletter in your email over a coffee in the morning, and you're calling a ride to go to work. And behind all of that are probably REST API calls, whether it's from your phone or from a browser or whatever else. And that has only meant that API security has got more and more important. So I think that's the first big trend. And I think the second big trend is, I feel like 10 years ago, or the third-party solutions where you just slap security on top of your APIs to secure them has probably failed. I think 10 years ago, if you're charged with securing an API, you might buy a VPN and put it behind that, or buy a WAF. And I think today there's general acknowledgement that you need to harden the APIs themselves, that, it's sort of coming back to the software as the place to fix things. Trends like, zero trust networking, the OWASP API top 10, which is all about securing software, and those kind of things. And the whole shift left, sort of all of those zeitgeisty things are about, are about sort of bringing things back and not just expecting something laying over the top is going to protect your APIs. So I think they're probably the two big trends over the last 10 years. The other personal trend is I've got a lot more gray hair.
Yeah, I hit that too, and a lot less of it. So
I wear a hat to
I think 10 years ago I had quite a bit more, but I think actually a lot of the security problems over the past 10 years probably would have led to that, hair reduction in my head, anyways.
Yeah.
But that's that's interesting, and it's funny because you mentioned the APIs are kind of everywhere right now. It was neat for me. It's neat for me having worked kind of closer to the networking side of things over the past decade or so. And it's always interesting, working with an application security company, showing network people, look, the people that are coming to this website and this application they're not exactly people. They're actually other programs. Like when you look at that traffic and see that it's all programmatic access.
Yep.
It's funny how network people are sort of still blown away by that kind of thing. And now, I mean, obviously AI is the new hotness. It seems like, marketing teams just sort of took their API security slides and like dropped the P. That's it. They just use the same slide in many cases. But that's not exactly the thing, right? AI security is a new thing. It is very, very different from traditional application security. How does that change the API security game from your perspective? AI, its emergence in I guess in terms of blue teamers, right? When you're defending something, what does that sort of bring to the game?
I think, to be perfectly frank, I think the answer is we don't know. I feel like, as you say, like security companies are slapping AI on every feature, and it's not just security companies, right? Every tech company right now is pushing out features based on large language models. But I feel like it's a period of experimentation. So there's a lot of theories about like where this might be good and what they're good for. But I particularly on the security side of things, I don't think I've seen a killer app that is all of a sudden going to change life for the blue teamer and make things 100% or significantly better. But that's maybe why it's exciting. We're going to find out. But I do think, just standing back from a sort of bigger picture point of view, large language models are hard to say and have proven great at producing a lot of written word. Like they're good at condensing a lot of context quickly into something that's consumable by a human. They're also really good at spitting out a lot of boilerplate. But I think the flip side is they're error prone, can hallucinate. There is a tendency towards black box solutions. Like AI says, do this. And I think as a blue teamer or the security industry, I think we're pretty cautious with those kind of features or products that just don't give you context and tell you to do something, particularly given all the sort of downsides of LLMs.
Yeah, well, that's we have I guess a threat in the LLM applications top 10 called over-reliance, right? And if it's just the AI is going to tell you to do it, you can't just get into a pattern where you're going to do that because of the hallucinations. That's something that I've seen. Steve Wilson, who's a part of our project, was talking about that too. He's a big proponent of the whole over-reliance being kind of a main threat. Now, it's funny you mentioned how the LLMs are real good at making things that are very human-like. I've sort of theorized that, like, in the future, I think that email will be able to come to a grinding halt at some point out there. That's
a good thing, right?
Well, it's not so strange to think about, honestly. If you think about it, most service providers keep things at 80%. That's just, the 80-20 rule. It's how you maximize your efficiency at scale. So if you think about that, I feel that, knowing that 99% of all inbound mail is dropped as spam, if all of a sudden every single spammer was able to overwhelm that mail filter, you're going to 100x your traffic, which is going to make that 20% disappear. I mean, instantaneously. The volume of mail that's out there is ridiculous. So I digress, but it does kind of get me into the whole red teamer sort of aspect, kind of on the offensive side of things. How do you think AI, I mean, aside from the obvious email example there, how do you think AI changes really kind of the red teamer game out there?
Right. So I think you put your finger on it in terms of like the asymmetry between like red team and blue team. I think, unfortunately, we've got theories about where AI can be useful for blue teamers. Bad actors don't have theories. They've got like some really good working examples right now. It's a lot clearer for them. So a bad actor, they just need to have a success every 1,000 or 1,000,000 sort of instances of whatever they're doing, like particularly email examples like you're talking about. Unfortunately, the blue teamer isn't going to be happy with that sort of like false true positive rate. So the red teamer has it a lot easier. AI is really good at spitting out text. They're really good now at sounding like, well-written prose. If you particularly go back to that email example, right? Like maybe still you can spot a spammer by their terrible grammar and English, But plug Chat GPT into that, and all of a sudden that is a problem that has, or an indicator that has gone away. So social engineering is definitely the place where we're already seeing a lot of sort of AI or large language model use.
Isn't it amazing too that most of the time to get large language models to do something, you also have to kind of socially engineer them as well? Like the irony.
Right. It's suddenly a key skill in today's information age. Maybe that's the positive take, that all of these social engineers are going to find more gainful employment in the security industry or in the prompt engineering industry.
That's right. That's right. And maybe we can have AIs take my, take my corporate tests for those things for me, right? That's like a new training the model, I guess.
You joke, but like some of the good uses of AI is being able to push out really customized compliance and security awareness videos. So maybe that's a benefit. We're experimenting with that internally at SemGrep, because those generic security awareness videos that tell you about like CD-ROMs and faxing things securely, they're never like well tailored for your organization. But if you can get a talking head that is AI driven to tell your people about things that are very specific to your organization, then it's slightly less painful to sit through, I guess.
It is true. And, there are some great uses in marketing as well. And I guess we'll just sort of see where all that goes in the future.
Yeah. But maybe there's some positive places that I'm seeing. Like I said, we don't know on the blue team side, but I am seeing, and I've seen a couple of products, including ours, that are trying to use large language models to reduce alert fatigue, right? They're good at quickly assessing context. And the thesis is if they can help make human operators make faster decisions, enrich alerts, identify false positives, highlight areas of significant concern, then maybe there's a position for them to play in a lot of the security products the blue team is sitting behind, right? That inundation of alerts. If you've got your robot agent that helps you quickly sort through them and be a little bit more efficient and avoid that black box kind of trap, then maybe there's something there. But I think the red team has definitely had the jump on use cases that are really working well at the moment.
Oh yeah, and that is an excellent one too. Knowing how many logs are spit out during, say, like a DOS event, right? You've got all the volumetric stuff that just makes the logs totally unreadable. Your SIM is clogged, and if you can have some sort of artificial intelligence go through that and say, nope, this stuff is junk. The stuff you really want is this low and slow stuff, or this thing that's only coming from these 2 IP addresses. What are those?
Right.
So that, like,
collapsing down some of that. But these things are all the same. This alert, from a code analysis point of view, don't worry about this finding. It's in test code. I think that's where I'm seeing things that these bots work.
Yeah. Well, awesome. That, I guess, kind of does it for me. I guess, are you heading to RSA?
I'll be there. I'm based in San Francisco, despite the accent, so I'll be around.
Hey, awesome.
Manning the booth, by the way. Come and say hello.
That was my next question. Can I come and actually say hi? I'm going to be wandering around probably Tuesday and Wednesday, but attending the AI Summit on Thursday.
Yeah, please do. Come and say hello to SemGrep. You'll have to let us scan your badge. I think that's the trade-off.
No problem. I'm ready for it. Thanks for taking the time today, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
Great to chat, Aubrey.